All right, today we are deconstructing a huge, high-conviction bet from a true investing legend, Bill Miller. He has gone all in on a company called BitMiner, and we're going to figure out exactly why. Let's get right into it.
So, this is the big question, isn't it? What on earth does the guy who famously bought Bitcoin at $200 see in this one company, ticker BMNR, that almost everybody else is missing? You know, this isn't just another small portfolio addition, this is a massive play. So let's unpack his thinking.
Now, before we go any further, you have to understand who we're talking about here. This is not your average Wall Street analyst. We're talking about Bill Miller, the man who beat the S&P 500 for 15 years in a row. I mean, that's a feat that is practically unheard of. So when a guy with that kind of track record makes a move this big, you really have to sit up and pay attention.
And that brings us right here to this new investment. See, for Miller, this isn't some random flyer on a hot crypto stock. He believes he's seeing a pattern. A very familiar pattern, actually. One that's made him billions in the past by seeing these huge market shifts way before anyone else.
And this, right here, this is the classic Bill Miller setup. It's his bread and butter. He hunts for things that are deeply undervalued, widely misunderstood by the market, but, and this is the key part, have absolutely explosive potential because of their network. He's not just picking a stock. He's spotting a powerful pattern he's seen and won on before.
So, what exactly is that playbook? Well, it's not about trying to time the market perfectly. Not at all. It's about spotting a fundamental change in the world, and then having the conviction, the absolute guts, to hold on for dear life through all the chaos that's guaranteed to follow.
And I mean, just look at his track record. It speaks for itself. Back in 2007, when everyone thought housing prices only go up, he was betting against the subprime mortgage market. Then, in 2011, while the news was literally laughing at Bitcoin, he was quietly buying it up. And now, today, he's making BMNR a core part of his strategy, which tells you he thinks we're at another one of those massive turning points. This really gets to the core of how different his thinking is. You know, the market pretty much runs on two things: fear and greed. People panic and sell when things crash, and they get FOMO and buy at the top. Miller, he does the exact opposite. For him, widespread fear is basically a giant flashing buy sign. He's famous for holding Bitcoin through these absolutely brutal 80% drop. And here's the key takeaway from his philosophy. He actually embraces the volatility. Where you and I might see terrifying risk, he sees what he calls a beautiful asymmetric opportunity. That's just a fancy way of saying a situation where the potential reward is just exponentially bigger than the risk. It's a chance to buy a world-changing asset when it's on a massive sale.
Okay, so how does BitMine fit into this whole playbook? Well, it really all comes down to one thing. It's absolutely massive treasury. This, right here, is the foundation, the bedrock of his entire thesis.
Okay, get ready for this. BMNR controls a staggering 4 million ETH. Let that sink in. 4 million. This is not a company that's just, dipping its toes in the crypto waters. No, this is a dominant, all-in bet on the core asset that powers the entire Ethereum network.
And just to put that number into perspective, BMNR controls a huge slice of the entire supply of ETH. They basically own a massive stake in the digital fuel that makes every single transaction on Ethereum possible. The big idea here is that Ethereum is on its way to becoming the base layer for the entire internet, like a global computer that anyone can use to build anything.
And their strategy? It's so simple, it's brilliant. Step 1, they just relentlessly accumulate more and more ETH. Step 2, they stake it all, which basically means they lock it up to help secure the network. And for doing that, they get rewarded with even more ETH, which creates this powerful compounding machine. And then step 3, they build out their own professional infrastructure to scale their whole operation. It's a pure, leveraged bet on the future of Ethereum.
So, what is the potential payoff here? What's the math that gets a legendary investor like Bill Miller this excited? Let's take a look at this asymmetric opportunity he's talking about.
Miller doesn't play for small wins. He hunts for home runs. We're talking once-in-a-decade opportunities. His bet against subprime mortgages, that returned something like 50 times his money, and his early Bitcoin investment, a mind-blowing 50,000 times. He believes BMNR has that same kind of incredible potential.
So let's just run some quick numbers and see what this looks like in dollars. If ETH hits $10,000, a price a lot of serious analysts think is possible, BMR's treasury alone is worth $40 billion. If it hits $20,000,
that number jumps to 80 billion. And that's not even counting the billions more they'd make from staking. This is the kind of explosive math that builds incredible conviction. Now, Miller didn't invent this playbook, but he is a master at recognizing it. He was one of the first big investors to publicly call MicroStrategy's Bitcoin plan a work of genius. And he believes BMNR is running that exact same play, just for Ethereum, the other absolute giant in the crypto space.
But, of course, a bet that has this kind of upside doesn't come for free. There are huge risks here, no doubt about it. The key, though, is understanding how Miller thinks about those risks. That's what really separates him from the herd. And Miller would be the first person to tell you about these risks. You've got regulatory uncertainty, which is always a wild card. There are tech risks inside Ethereum itself. It's still new technology. The management team has to execute perfectly. And most importantly, that last one, extreme price volatility, that's not a possibility. That is a 100% guarantee.
But here's the thing. This is the whole point. Miller has seen this movie before with Bitcoin. He knows the road to these incredible returns is never ever a straight line up. It is a brutal, painful roller coaster designed to shake out anyone who's just thinking about the short term. Gamblers try to time it, investors with conviction just hold on.
And a huge piece of his conviction comes down to the team. Miller bets on people who do things, not people who just talk about them. At BMNR, he sees a team with a laser-sharp focus on executing one simple job: grow the treasury. He's betting on their ability to just get it done.
So look, to be perfectly clear, none of this is financial advice, okay? It's just a breakdown of a really powerful idea from one of the greatest investors alive. And frankly, his track record of spotting these huge shifts early, it's pretty much undeniable.
Which really just leaves us with one last, powerful question to think about. When a legend with this kind of track record makes a bet this big and this focused, what is he trying to signal to all of us about where the future is really going?